It's great to see you all, though. All right, we are almost at 4 o'clock. So today was day 1 of the Papers Challenge. If you're not already in the challenge, that is okay. You can head over to the group. I put a link to the Facebook group where the challenge is primarily being held. It's in the comments on this, or in the description on this Facebook Live. And during the replay, you can also replay this afterwards if you wanted to rewatch anything, so you don't have to worry about taking notes if you're a note taker. But this is the Conquer Your Papers Challenge, and the focus of this challenge is over the next 5 days, we're going to be taking small bites towards building our system called the action file to help all of those incoming papers find a home. So it's the first stop on your papers journey. It hits the action file before it ever makes it anywhere else, and this is where it can all stay corralled, and instead of being in piles, you can feel in control of it. And the only way out of the action file is through the file cabinet or like the shredder or recycle bin. So those are your only 2 options out. We're going to talk today about what the action file is, an overview of how it works, and how to build it. And then we also are going to talk about, I've got 10 of my favorite anxiety tips that I use all the time with people. I'm going to go over 5 of my favorites with you today on the live. If you want the other 5, they will be in the VOP membership. There's a link to that in the description as well. So you can always join the VOP membership. All week this week we'll have bonus videos and resources and downloads just for the VOP members. But if you're joining me just in the free groups, that's okay. You will still get absolutely everything that you need. I promise you won't be left hanging. I see Pam has joined us. Hi, Pam. If you're just joining, please let me know that you've hopped on and say hi. I love to see that. And I have old eyes, so sometimes I have to look at my comments down below. But we're going to hop right in. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Suzanna Kaye. I've been a professional organizer for over 14 years, and I also come from a background in business and education, both, with finance and accounting as some of my primary positions that I've held in corporate America. I bring a lot of that to my paper organizing, but I was not born organized. I was actually born a hot mess, and it took me so many years and so much frustration until I was able to build up some of these skills for myself. And I had to learn them myself from scratch. This was back before the internet was even a helpful tool. I had to learn all these from books and magazines, and I learned so much about organizing that, over a decade later, after I'd finally gotten myself a little bit under control and had started to get better and better, I found out that there was such a thing as professional organizing. Well, I thought that would be amazing to be able to help cut all of that work out for somebody else, because it was so hard for me to figure out what worked for me. And I love personality types, and I love figuring out what works for various people, and I love the idea of walking into somebody's life, whether it's online or in person, and then leaving that day, that week, that month, whatever, with them feeling just lighter. I've never gotten so many hugs from a job in my life, or virtual hugs online. I love all of the wonderful comments I get from people about how much better they feel and how much their life has changed just by getting organized. You feel more in control and more peaceful. So that's why I do what I do. I fell instantly in love with it. It was just the right fit for me, and my background, it just made sense why I had done the jobs that I'd done. I used it all in this position. So this week, I'm bringing you the Papers Challenge. This is one of our most popular challenges. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, but I'm going to refresh for those of you who just joined, this week's goal, we will be setting up our action file. Now, this can be made with pretty much what you have at home. You probably don't have to get anything, and if you do, maybe not even a lot. So this action file is the core of your paper, because every paper that comes into your home first hits your action file. So it stops the piles from even starting, and it makes filing and maintaining all of your important papers with your Spark Life binder or any of the other items that you use. It makes it so much easier because they all have a path and with very little mental engagement. That's the whole goal. So we're focusing this week on building our action file, learning how to use it, and we're starting to sort some of our papers into it so that way we know our system really well and it becomes second nature. The more you use it, the easier it will get and the less your mind has to engage, and that's the goal. The more we can take our brains out of things, the better. Now, throughout the live, please, the whole point of a live is a conversation, so ask questions and comment on things. This is chat. I want to hear from you the whole time. So feel free, post away. I will answer questions. This is not like a webinar where I'm just going to talk at you. I've got a couple things that I'll tell you, but I want to answer any of your questions that you have that come up as well. So let's get started. The overview of the action file. Like I mentioned, this is the first step for all of your papers. This is one of my favorite containers that I use for mine, but the container, it does not have to be this one in particular. I have other ones that I use sometimes. I have in the description, I have a link for some of my favorite supplies that I use, and it has both of these containers listed as well as some other options depending on what you like to do. So you probably have something around the house, but if you want something like one of these, it's also linked there. But you start with your container. The goal of the container is for it to be small so it can fit on top of a counter or in a small entryway, a laundry room if that's where you walk through. This should not have a top on it and it should be super easy to access. So this one here, if you did grab this one, it actually can hang on the wall too or sit on a countertop. And then this one's my latest favorite. I'm absolutely in love with this one. It's a 31 file bin, and like I said, there's a link, there's all kinds of patterns, but I am a colorful type. So this is my favorite pattern. I like this one a lot because it does have the pockets to hold your supplies. And we'll talk about, the different supplies that you need and why these pockets would be super helpful. But this one from 31, I think it's called the Fold-In File, but there's a link, like I said, in the descriptions to all the supplies that I talk about today. But customize it, make it whatever you want, but I love this one lately. It even has handles, so it makes it easy. Now, once you've grabbed your file holder, inside you're going to need some hanging file folders. I say grab 10. You don't necessarily need all 10. You might use them all, you might not, but you don't want more than 10. The idea is to have very broad categories so your brain does not have too many choices to make. The more folders you have in your action file, the more your brain has to think about which folder your paper goes in. The fewer choices it has, the more obvious the answer, so you can do it mindlessly. Now I've given you in the task for today the starting labels that I use for every action file. And there's only 5 of them that I start with. So the first folder that I use is called To Do. This is for any paper that has an action attached to it. You have to actually do something besides just file it or read it. So your To Do folder is the only one that you really need to check on a regular basis. The other folders that we'll talk about, when they get full, they get dealt with. When you have time, they get dealt with. It's not a super urgent thing. If they start to get a little full, it is okay. But you don't need to create a habit around it, only the To Do folder. The other files that I have, To Enter, you'll notice that these are all starting with the word to, because since it's called the action file, these are all based on what is the next action that you need to do with that paper. So To Enter would include things like business cards or passwords, any type of paper that simply has information that needs to be entered somewhere else, but the paper itself is not what's important. So, like I mentioned, we got business cards that would go in there, maybe return address addresses, any ideas that if you scan your notes or enter your ideas somewhere else, that would go there. Recipes, if you enter your recipes in a recipe book, if you handwrite them, then that would go there. So your To Enter folder is only for information that gets entered somewhere else, and the paper itself is not important. After that, I use the To Read folder. This just means that my only action is to read it. I don't have to do anything else to follow up. So this could be a great place to put your magazines. You can even just rip the articles that you want out of the magazine if there are only a few and put it in your To Read folder. It's also something like an insurance policy might be good in here, because maybe you want to review the insurance policy before you file it. So anything where the only action is that you need to read it can go in your to read. And the nice thing is if you have to sit in a pickup line at school to pick up your kid or in a doctor's office, you can just grab your whole folder and read through the things while you're out and then just put the folder back in your action file without whatever you don't need anymore once you're home. It makes it really easy to actually get through those to read items as well. And then after that, we have to scan and to file. So to scan and to file, the only difference here is whether you're scanning it to digital or keeping the paper copy. Usually with to scan, I use this for anything where the original paper is not what's important, and I just want to scan it. Now when you're scanning, we're not going into paperless during this challenge, but I'll tell you really quick, the key to scanning and not forgetting where something is stored and being able to find it easily is your file name. Just sort of brain dump all of the keywords that you might search for, and that's a great file name. And scan it into whatever service you use or onto your hard drive. I know I love Google Drive. I love external USB drives for anything sensitive, that type of thing. But keep that file name super searchable, because if you just put all the keywords as your file name, then whenever you're looking for it, you can just type in the search box those keywords and it will come up, and you don't have to remember what folder you even saved it in. So to scan, like I mentioned, it's just for papers where the paper itself doesn't matter, but you do need an image of the paper. So this is great for bank statements, it's great for school reports, anything like that. And then there's to file. To file would be if you need the original paper. Now, that would usually be very few items that we need the original paper for. So this is how you get that file cabinet to be really small. I mean, we need our birth certificate, we need original legal documents with a wet signature, which is when you actually signed the paper, if they require the original signed paper, or if they have a seal embossed into it, then that would be something that you would need to keep the original. There are a lot of papers, though, where the original is not important anymore. Even the IRS takes scans of most things these days. So to file, you can be super, super picky and only put the things that you actually need to keep. And like I said, with all of these folders, everything besides to do, when it gets full, then you deal with it. Until then, you'll know if it's not in your file cabinet or in your Dropbox or Google Drive, then it must still be in the folder. So there's only two places it could be. It makes it really easy, and then they're not wandering around in piles to do later, because it's very rare that we run over and file something in our file cabinet right away. Our file cabinets should be out of the way and not so easy to reach. And then this way you can just grab the whole folder and file every once in a while just in a big chunk. Now, one of the questions I get a lot is, what if it's kind of both? What if you need to both read something, and then what if you need to maybe do something after you find out that you've read it and you discover that you need to do something? Well, the great thing is that things can hop between different folders. So something could go, like maybe that insurance policy could go into read, but then you find something that you have a question about or an error that you need to contact the insurance company about. Well, great. So it can move from to read over to do. And then once it's done out of to do, it can either be shred or recycled or go to scan or to file. To scan and to file, I almost never put anything directly into file. It usually hits to scan first. And then after I've scanned things, some things will go into file if I need the original. So that's another case of where it hops around. Maybe you entered something and then you realized that you needed to follow up with somebody on it. So then it goes from to enter to do. Or it can go from to do to file. Maybe what you do with your bank statements is you eyeball it. To do and then over to file. Maybe you eyeball it and make sure that the statement is correct, and that was your first task to do. And then after that, you want to scan it. So that way it could go from to do over to scan. Or maybe you just don't want to scan it, you just want to temporarily keep it. Then it can go from to do to file, and maybe just go in your monthly files and you only keep a year of it. So this is a very active file. Like I said, the key though is broad categories. You want fewer than 10, because more than 10 choices, and our brains have to engage so much that we will put it off until later, and you'll find yourself sticking the papers next to the file or on it instead of putting them in it. So fewer categories, and you want to make sure that it's all action-based. So if you do add another category, try to find a way that you can start it with the word to. What is your action? Is it to follow up? Is it to try out? What is your next action with it? And that would be what the category name is. We'll go over some other categories, special categories later in the week, but I just wanted to give you an overview of what our goal is for this week and what we're going to be working with. So throughout the week, as you gather your papers, I told you go through your house, grab all of the paper piles, put them in a basket, a laundry basket, and that way we will have them available to sort into our action file. Now I want to warn you, if you have a lot of papers to sort, then I don't want you to pull all of the boxes and bags out and make it overwhelming. That's not the goal. Try maybe a laundry basket at the most. If it's more than that, then maybe you can create some other baskets or boxes that you can tuck away and just pull them out as you finish the one that you're working on. Because the goal is not to overwhelm yourself by pulling out everything that you could possibly have to organize. That can be really stressful. Now, Sarah has a comment. Yep, so Sarah says that she has something similar to this. However, she has a to pay for bills and a separate to do so she can find her bills easier. Do you think that works or makes it more complicated? You know, I used to actually do the to pay folder until about last year. And then I just realized that I really was only paying things online and there were very few bills that came in. And I found so many people have kind of gone over to the online and they don't necessarily have so many bills that come in that they get lost in the to-do folder. But if you do have a large number or if you do want to make sure to keep them separate, then a to file folder is absolutely fantastic. As long as it's not complicated for you and it works for you, then there's absolutely no reason to change it. I say don't mess with something that works. Yeah, Betty says she does online, easy to pay, and get reminders. Yeah, that's how a lot of my bills are and a lot of people's bills are. But I can understand, Sarah, if you want to make sure that those bills stay in sight and separate, because it can be a little bit scary to think about maybe missing a bill. So if to pay works for you, then definitely keep it. It's not too complicated. As long as you have fewer than 10 categories, then you're still good. Great question. All right, so we talked about, keep asking questions, by the way. This is totally a conversation, or comment on things. Like Betty, great comment. Please comment on things as we go. Anita says, I pulled out too much when I started this last fall. Yeah, if you did pull out too much, either in the past or even today, go ahead and just create maybe a corner or a closet of boxes or bags or whatever you have them in that you can tuck away a lot of them. So that you're down to maybe just one laundry basket to sort, because it can get really overwhelming and you can feel behind and you can feel that pressure and anxiety, which we're going to talk about anxiety in just a little bit. So tuck away a lot of it and just pull out one basket at a time, one laundry basket full or less. And then whenever that gets emptied, then go back to the pile, wherever you're storing the extras, and refill the basket and pull that out and work on that. But just kind of one chunk at a time so it's not in your face the whole time, because yeah, that can get really stressful. Sarah says, okay, thank you. I do pay online, but get all mail bills. That makes absolute sense. Yeah, great. Now we mentioned the supplies. One other thing I wanted to talk about with your supplies, with your action file, is I always keep some quick grab supplies with my action file. One of the things that I love about the 31 bin is it's got these great pockets. So there, I can have my pens, I can have my stapler, all of it right in front. I don't necessarily need an extra pencil pouch. But if you have one that does not have the pockets up front, or if you're the type where the pens might disappear from the front, then I know how that is. So I usually keep sort of a quick grab hidden stash of a couple extra pens, so these can't walk away so easily. And post-it note, I have some binder clips, a pencil, a highlighter, all of those types of things that I don't have to go looking for supplies when the mail comes in. I can just quickly jot a note on a post-it note so I remember what my next action is, or highlight something so I remember why I'm keeping the paper. Whatever it is, I can staple papers together if they're going to be filed. I want all of my supplies easy to grab, but you don't need a lot of supplies. As I mentioned, I did include in the description, I've got a link to all the supplies that I use, including the 31 bins, and there's a bunch of different types of patterns, and they're not very expensive, and I love these with the handles and the little pockets. And this one's the one from Amazon, so that's on there too. And I've got a couple of other ideas in case you don't really work well with those desktop types of holders. It's absolutely fine. Do what works for you, just make it small and make it 10 categories or less, and you want to be able to keep it near your walkways when you come into the house. Because the goal is, like, you grab the mail as you come in, this should be along your walkway that you're already going through, or wherever you're already dropping that mail. So when you looked around your house, where were those piles forming of the mail? If they're on the kitchen counter or the entryway table, like most of us tend to have them, that's where you want to keep your file. So you can just tuck it right in there into the correct folder. You don't even need to open the envelope. You can just tuck the mail right into the folder that it goes into and deal with it later. And it's all categorized for you. Now, Sarah asked, where do you put coupons? That's a great question. We'll actually go over that later this week because that's more of one of the specialty ones. And I'm going to go into some of that more in depth in the VOP membership as well with some of those special categories. So I will get to that, but it's just not, I won't do it on this live because I've got that planned for later. All right? Perfect. So if you have any other questions about how to use the action file, like I mentioned, you're placing this in a walkway or wherever you normally leave all of your piles of papers or your mail. Make sure that this sits there with no lid on it, because that lid is a barrier to entry, and as humans, we'll put our papers on top of the lid instead of opening up. So when you first come in, you're just going to tuck things right inside of it. You don't even need to open the envelopes. Lori says, thoughts on papers the kids bring home from school every day? That's another great question. A lot of times I would make that quick decision of, is it to file or is it to shred or is it to scan? And I would just tuck it into my action file. We'll go more in depth into that one as well when we talk about some of the special file folders later in the week and how to make those decisions. But yeah, for the most part, I try to just really quickly make those decisions and tuck them into the action file though, so I don't have to even worry about it again later. All right, I did want to touch on anxiety as well, because I know that a lot of times it's our anxiety and the overwhelm that stops us from completing our tasks or from even getting started with our papers. And I have 10 main things that I use for people with anxiety all the time, especially when it comes to paper. I want to go over 5 of them with you tonight and kind of get a little bit more in depth with them than I can just typing it out. If you have any thoughts on any of these or any questions about them, then please let me know. But we're going to hop in and we're going to talk about 5 ways that you can reduce anxiety while you're going through your papers now, this week, and in the future. I don't know about you, but when I was not doing very well with organization before I really figured out the systems that worked for me, systems like the action file and things like that to take my brain out of it, I had a really hard time with anxiety, and it would shut me down and I would not even know where to start with some of my projects because it just seemed too overwhelming. So some of these really worked for me, as well as it's worked for my clients over the past decade plus as I've worked with them. So number 1, and you probably hear this from me more than anything else because it's the foundation of Spark Organizing, which is my company. It's the foundation of everything that I teach because I found that this works better than anything else in making a change in your life. And that is take small bites. A lot of times we start to picture these projects as being much larger than they really are. Or we picture the project as a whole instead of just what section that we're working on right then. So when you take small bites, this actually makes you do the action more often, and it's not as daunting because it's not a huge action. So that's why I have these challenges that are broken down into the small bites, and I don't dump everything on you the first day, and I don't just have you, read through like 2 hours of little paper manifesto. I want you to do just a little bit at a time so that way it can be absorbed and it can be more doable. Because we can do just about anything that's 15 minutes or less. So breaking it down into small bites, like leaving all of the extra papers in a back closet or in some boxes and only pulling out one laundry basket at a time, or only worrying about, setting up your action file and gathering your papers together and not worrying about putting them in the action file yet. Those are small doable bites that make it a whole lot less overwhelming, and then you get that reward, that sense of accomplishment a lot faster. And that's what we're going for, is we're going for a series of successes, a series of little wins that will get us further along. And it's amazing. You won't even realize how quickly you'll get through a project when you're doing one small bite at a time, instead of trying to do a massive project and then your brain has to engage and talk you out of it. So small bites are a huge foundation, and we're doing small bites all of this week. So don't worry about deadlines or anything like that. It's not a race. Janice says, thank you for the anxiety talk. Life is so full of stress, super anxiety and pressure, ready to listen for tips. Oh, fantastic, Janice. I know the anxiety was a huge problem for me most of my life. And once I got more organized and found these tips, it was such a life changer. So number 1 was small bites. Number 2, I touched on this just briefly, but that's repetition. Another reason why I do the small bites is because then you're doing that same action again over and over and over. And when you're thinking about the same way, or about the same thing, or in the same way every day or frequently, then your mind starts to change without you having to try to change it. So instead of reading a book on organizing your life and trying to in one session make all these changes and change your mindset, which is really hard, instead of doing that, if you do the small repetitions of thought, if you think about organizing once a day, if you organize 15 papers every single day, if you drop your mail off in your action file every single day, then after a while your brain goes into the muscle memory of this, and it just doesn't have to think about it, it just does it. And you don't even realize it's happening. It's just that repetition. When you do something over and over, it naturally creates the change. So I tell people, when you want to get more organized, read more organizing articles. When you want to get more organized, organize one small thing a day. It does not need to be organizing your closet. Maybe you just purge a couple shoes. And in this case, if you want to get control of your papers, then every day just do a little bite of papers. And after a while, those decisions are going to be easier. That way of thinking will be easier, and you won't even realize it. I have so many people who've had success stories. I know Holly was on earlier. I don't know if you're still on, but you've had some amazing things that have happened as you've done all of this repetition of some of these challenges and the tasks, and you've done amazing things simply because you've committed to having those thoughts over and over and doing those actions over and over. And now what was hard for you, a year ago seems so much easier. You're just like rocketing through the sky with all of these tasks without struggling anymore. So repetition is a huge one. So number 1 was small bites. Break it down into small bites and only do little small bites. Number 2 was repetition, which works with the small bites, just that same thing every day, or really often you want to do a small bite in order to change that mindset. Then number 3, you're already doing it right now actually, is find your tribe and connect with them. Find the people who are also going through what you're going through and trying to make the changes that you're trying to make, and reach out and connect. Comment on the posts, share your photos, because you never know who is going to see that photo and it's going to make the difference for them about how they feel about themselves, and they won't feel so alone, because a lot of times we feel alone in our organizing problems and our struggles. We don't talk about it. We don't share the reality of what we're going through, so everybody thinks that it's unique to them and they're just broken. But if we showed up at everybody's home with a hidden camera crew without announcing it, then you would see that this is a very common problem. And the more we can talk about it and connect about it, the more we can feel like we're normal and there's hope. And then also, as you succeed, share that too, because that encourages others who might not be where you're at yet. And it allows you to really get that win. It allows us to tell you how amazing you're doing. So reaching out and connecting, visiting something like the Home Challenges group, or if you have another group that's going through the same things, that works too. I always want you here with me, but whatever group you find that works for you, that you feel like you fit in and you enjoy, visit it often. And really try to connect with that group, because that's going to be a bit of your accountability, but it's also going to take away that anxiety, because you'll know that you're not alone and you'll know that you have a safe place to talk about it and to get over your struggles. Just tell people about it, share your struggles, get that encouragement, get those virtual hugs. So visit here often, find your tribe, and share and connect, and that's going to relieve a whole lot of your anxiety. All right, so we talked about number 1 was small bites, breaking it down into small bites. Number 2 was repetition, doing those same thoughts or actions every day or frequently, and that's going to relieve the anxiety because it becomes muscle memory. You don't have to think. Number 3, find your tribe and connect with them, because then you won't feel so alone and you'll feel like you have a resource that's out there and interested in you and celebrating you, and you can celebrate your wins even better. And that leads us to number 4. And this is an important one, and I will remind you of this one often. It is not a race. I know this is a 5-day challenge. I broke it down over 5 days because really nobody wants to challenge themselves for 30 days with papers. That would sound overwhelming. That would not be a small bite. So it's a 5-day challenge, but it might take you more than 5 days to complete everything, and that is okay. Release that expectation on yourself and let it go at the pace that you need it to go in. If your bites need to be extra small with sorting your papers, that's fine. It might take you a little bit longer, but you will get there. Just don't give up. If you fall off the wagon and you're sorting really well and you're doing well, and then you miss a day or two, don't give up. Hop back on wherever you're at with whatever task is going on. Hop back in and you can catch up later. But forgive yourself and just keep going. So there's no deadline to finish this, and you just need to keep taking those bites, even if it takes you longer than 5 days. So I want to make sure that you know, we're not going to ask you at the end of 5 days, if you've completed it, and why not if not? Because not everybody is the same. So this is not a race. If you fall off the wagon, get back on. Janice says, "You're inspirational and make us know we aren't alone and have others we can now connect to and share our processes and problems. Thanks for that." You're so welcome, Janice. And it's absolutely true. It's so true. If you just ask people out there if they're going through the same things, I can tell just from all the hearts and the smiles and the emojis, we're all with you. We've all been there. I used to be there as well, so I totally get it. And I'm just glad that you're here. So thank you. All right, so we talked about number 1, taking small bites to break it down so it's not major. Number 2, repetition. So doing those small bites and making those thoughts every single day or frequently so that your mind changes without having to work. Number 3, find your tribe just like this and connect with them. Whether you're live right now or you're watching the replay later, comment on the Facebook Live, comment on the posts each day, and share your stories, share your struggles, share your wins, because that's how you can feel not alone and really let those wins sink in. Number 4, it's not a race. There is no deadline. Do this on your own schedule and you will make it to the end. The only thing that you need to do is keep going. So if you fall off the wagon, just hop back on. And that leads us to tie up with number 5. Number 5 is forgive yourself. There are so many times where I hear people saying the word should, and I hate the word should, because should is a judgment about yourself. Or if you're using it to talk about somebody else, then it's a judgment about others, but there is no should. There's either you did or you didn't, and either one's okay, but the actions that you're taking moving forward are what define who you are. We don't care about our past. Our past is what was already done. But the fact that you're here and you're making this change and you're doing the work, That's amazing. So forgive yourself for any guilt that you have as you come across papers. If you come across something that you should have done, or that you missed an opportunity, forgive yourself. That was the old you, and the new you will have this action file and will stay on top of it, and you'll stumble sometimes, and that's okay because you're human. But holding on to that guilt will not help you get through your papers. It's actually going to block you and increase your anxiety and that overwhelm. So that's a really big one. Forgive yourself, forgive yourself, forgive yourself. Cut out the word should and let it go. The new you moving forward starts now, and you will stumble, and you will forgive yourself, and you will keep going, and it will turn out to be absolutely amazing. So I see that we have, there's so many people who loved Janice's comment about not feeling alone and being able to share and connect with each other. Carrie says that it's her second attempt at the paper challenge. Awesome. Good. You've not given up. You're still moving forward. Keep that up, Carrie. Every single time I've had people do it multiple times, and that's absolutely okay. Because each time they refine it and get better at it. You know, you learn new things each time. You might have heard it before, but it didn't sink in, so maybe you hear something new that you need now. So keep repeating it if you need to. If you're in the VOP membership, then actually this paper challenge will stay posted in the VOP for you to rewatch and redo as many times as you want throughout the year. If you're here in the Facebook group, the posts will still be in the feed, but after next week, they'll come out of the unit section, so they'll be harder to find. And that's just simply because otherwise that unit section gets really cluttered, and then for the challenges it gets confusing. But they'll still be scrollable, but they'll be difficult to find. So watch them and save them this week. Join the VOPs though if you want to be able to repeat it, because so many people do really well repeating it. It's just, you get better each time. Kind of like wine. Each year it's just a little bit better, right? So they say. We had a Me Too and a Me 3. We've got a lot of people repeating the challenge. That's awesome. Patricia says, hi, I'm here. Hi, Patricia. Carrie says she's probably going to join VOP, but she hasn't yet. That's not a problem. Hop on over whenever you want. I put in the description, there's a link to join the VOP membership. It's super easy. It's very inexpensive. It's under $6 a month. And if you join, instead of through your phone, if you go onto the computer or through the browser on your phone, like Safari or whatever you use, instead of through the App Store, then it tends to be less expensive. So just a heads up. I think you save like $1 a month if you don't go through the App Store and you go through the browser. And that's just because that's just Apple ads fees. So Carrie asks, what other challenges are there in the VOP? Right now in the VOP, we also have, I believe, the Spring Clean Challenge. We have, I think, the 21-day Declutter Challenge is there. We have the Command Center Challenge. I'm not sure if the Closet Challenge is there yet, but it will be. There's a Welcome Challenge. There are several challenges there from the past, and each time we do a challenge, it just gets added in and stays there. And you're going to get, in the VOPs, you'll get some live videos, extra live videos with me, extra videos, like I did 5 of my 10 anxiety tips. Well, the other 5 will be in the VOPs tonight. Those will be posted tonight so that you get 10. There will be some free downloads, like a paper policy and things like that. So I share some bonus stuff with the VOPs. Patricia says, first time on the paper challenge. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here, Patricia. You're going to rock this. I know it. Sarah, I'm happy I found this group. I like these challenges, but more your support around them. Thank you. Aw, you just made my heart happy. Thank you. I'm giving you a heart. I can't hit the screen heart, but I'm giving you a heart. Thank you. Nelda, you're so encouraging. Hope to send pictures tonight. Fantastic, Nelda. Yeah, the more you share pictures and comment on each other's pictures and like them, the more you build that community. So that's fantastic. I'm so glad you're here too, Nelda. I think I got everybody. Fantastic. Keep commenting. But let's just do a recap of those 5 of my 10 top anxiety tips. So number 1, you've heard this a bunch of times, but I love this one to sink in, is do small bites. If you make anything bite-sized, then you can do it. Break down the big project into just what the next step is, and just do that little tiny step. Don't worry about what's coming next. Number 2, repetition. When you do the same thought process or action over and over, it starts to become natural. So the more you think about organizing, or the more you think about purging and making decisions to let things go, or the more you think about paper filing and you do that type of thing, whether it's scanning it or filing it or purging, the more you do it on a consistent basis, the easier it's going to get, and it's going to become automatic after a while and be so easy. Right now it's hard because you've not been doing it every single day or frequently. Number 3, like you're doing right now, you find your tribe and connect with them. So like the posts, comment on each other's, share your photos, comment on anything that you see like the live here, join the lives whenever you can. I will try to space them out at different times so various people will have a chance. But we are all in the same boat. We've either been there or we're still there, and this is a safe space. There is no tolerance for anybody who's judgmental or negative or in any way hurtful. That's simply a rule of the group, and I'm extremely strict about that one. So this is your safe space. We're not going to ever do anything to disrespect or make you feel bad. So you can share anything here. We've probably all can either picture it or have been there. Number 4, it's not a race. There's no deadline. So do your small bites and don't worry about getting it done by a specific time. You're never behind. There's no falling behind in these challenges. And then if you have a hiccup and you fall off the wagon, that's okay. You get back up again. If it doesn't go perfect, that's okay. Get back up again and just hop back on. Because the real success does not happen by, finishing by a deadline. The real success happens by getting back up every time you stumble. And then number 5, forgive yourself. Whatever happened in the past, opportunities you might have missed or things that you feel guilty about with either getting yourself in the situation of having these papers, things that you might come across, opportunities that you missed or things that you should have done, whatever it is, that is in the past. Let that go. That was the old you. Starting now, you're making a different choice and you're doing amazing things. So don't use the word should as you go along, and forgive yourself for anything because you're making great choices right now. I am so glad that you're here. As I mentioned, this whole week we're going to be talking about the action file and setting this up. We will be going folder by folder pretty much and talking about how to use them. And as we sort our papers, our nice big laundry basket of papers, we're going to be sorting them into our action file. So throughout the week, we'll learn a little bit more about how to optimize each of those folders and how to make it really work for us, and how to make some of those decisions, how to sort and things like that. If you want some of the bonus materials and even more information, like I mentioned, the VOP membership, it has even more on the anxiety that will be posted tonight, and it has other things that will be coming up throughout the week. So there's a link in the description for that. If you would like to find out about where to get some supplies, and the supplies that I love, I've got, cute staplers and my favorite pens, and I've got this file. There's various patterns, but I've got this file thing with the pockets in the front that I love, as well as one like this and some other options for various action file setups that might work for you. There's in the description as well, there's a link to the supplies, so you can, even if you don't want to grab any of them, you can at least see what I use to put together my action file. And gather all those together. Gather up your papers, just one laundry basket full. Leave the rest tucked away so it's manageable. And yeah, also in the description I have 3 things. What was the other thing? Let me look real quick because I already forgot. Oh yeah, if you've not already joined the challenge, if you're watching this through maybe the Spark page or something, then there's a link right there to the Facebook group where the challenge is running. And share this with friends. Like I mentioned, finding your tribe. Bring more people into the tribe because, hey, if you're friends with them, we probably like them too. They're probably good people because we already like you. So take that link, copy it, paste it into Facebook, share it with your friends. Anybody's welcome to join at any time. They can always join even towards the end of the challenge. The whole unit will have the tasks and the videos and everything up at least through the end of next week. So there we go. If you have any other questions, let me know. We're wrapping this up now. I see, let's see. Oh, Kathy. Hi, Kathy says she just showed up. Welcome. And Joanne says that she is here, and let's see. Yep, she says, me too. Replying to Anita. Welcome, Joanne. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you all so much for showing up. I'll do a couple more lives throughout the challenge so that you can ask any questions that you have. They probably won't all be quite as wordy from me because I had a lot more to go through tonight. I will be posting also how the challenge works and a recap of how to build your action file and that overview in the group. So you'll see that in our VOP members. This evening, you will also see the video with the additional 5, so numbers 6 through 10 of the anxiety tips will be posted in the VOP, and you guys get to keep the challenge the whole time, all year. So you'll also get a preview of the challenge from, there's a whole topic on the Papers Challenge. So you can see all the tasks that are coming up and everything. So I hope that this is really helpful for you. Keep sharing, post your photos. I know that it can be scary to share some of these things, but the more open you are and the more you post photos, the more you encourage each other and the more we can encourage you. And I love to see it. And I would love to see how you set up your file. I know Pam already shared a photo of the file that she built today. It's a beautiful blue. I love the blues. So post a picture of your action file because I love to see all the different personalities. And if you did want to get something like one of these containers or anything like that, but you don't have it yet, go ahead and build your file out of what you already have laying around. So that might be a shoebox. It might be, a cereal box with the side cut out, anything that can just hold the file folders temporarily until you get all the final pieces. It's absolutely fine. So use what you've got so you can get started, and then just like our systems, keep refining it after that. So order anything else that you want, and then when it comes in, you can change it out, but don't let that stall you. Michelle says, thanks, excited to learn how to deal with the daily school papers and mail. Amen. Well, we are talking about that this week. I'm so glad to see you all. If you are watching the replay or you have questions afterwards, pop them in the comments. I'll watch the comments as well, and feel free to answer anybody else's questions too. So this is a community. I'm not the only one who has great ideas. So share your ideas, ask your questions. We're all here for each other. Judy says, I need to talk to you. You contacted me once and I lost track of it. How can I connect with you? Great question. There are a couple ways you can connect with me. You can either message me directly through Facebook, through Messenger, and that's absolutely fine. Or you can also reach me by email at Suzanna@sparkorganizing.com. And I'm actually typing that into the comments right now. Oops, I'm replying to your comment with my email, and you can contact me directly that way as well. So anybody who needs something like extra private or very specific to them that would not be appropriate in the group, feel free to use my email. I'm here for you. All right, I love you all so much. Have a fantastic night, and I will see you very, very soon. Watch for day 2's task tomorrow in the group. I'll see you later. I love you.